My parents left me. Everything in the will. My sister cut me off and blamed me, even though I never asked for it. Now I have to choose between keeping the inheritance that could fix my life or losing my sister. I'm 33. I live in Portland, Oregon, in a studio apartment in the Hawthorne district that costs me $1,390 a month. I work as a social worker for Multnomah County. My salary is $52,000 a year before taxes, before the $27,000 in student loans from Portland State that I'm still chipping away at before groceries and gas, and the $87 a month I spend on the parking spot behind my building because street parking in Hawthorne is a competitive sport. I drive a 2015 Subaru Outback with 168,000 miles on it. The heater broke in October. It is now January. I live in Portland. The heater is still broken because the repair estimate was $1,400, and I had to choose between that and keeping my student loan payments current. So every morning, I drive to work in a car that is 38 degrees inside wearing 2 coats and fingerless gloves like some kind of Dickensian orphan. And I sit in the parking lot of the Multnomah County Human Services building waiting for the engine heat to slowly creep into the cabin before I go inside and help other people navigate their crises. That's my life. That is the full, honest, unglamorous context. My sister Brooke is 36. 3 years ago, she married James, who is 42. James is a tech executive at Intel out in Hillsboro. He makes $310,000 a year. They live in a 4-bedroom house in Lake Oswego that's worth $920,000. Brooke does not work. Her official title, and I'm not being sarcastic, this is what she puts in her Instagram bio, is stay-at-home dog mom. She has 2 golden retrievers named Biscuit and Waffles. They have matching monogrammed beds. She drives a white Mercedes GLE. I want to be very clear about something before I go further. I love Brooke. I love her more than almost anyone on this planet. Growing up, we were inseparable. I mean, genuinely inseparable. We shared a bunk bed until I was 14 and she was 17. Not because our parents couldn't give us separate rooms. They had a 3rd bedroom, but because we didn't want to sleep apart. We shared clothes. We had a secret language when we were little that drove our parents insane. She taught me how to French braid hair. I taught her how to ride a bike without training wheels, which is ridiculous because she was older, but she was scared and I wasn't. So I went first and then talked her through it. That was our dynamic. I went first, she followed when she was ready. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand that what's happening right now is not some petty sibling rivalry between 2 people who never liked each other. This is a grenade that went off in the middle of a relationship that has been the most important one in my life for 33 years. Our parents are Dave, 64, and Karen, 61. Dad worked as a mail carrier for USPS for 33 years. Mom was a receptionist at a dentist's office. They are good, simple, hardworking people who never made a lot of money but never complained about it either. They own a 3-bedroom craftsman house in the Selwood neighborhood of Portland. It's worth about $610,000, which still blows my mind because I remember when Selwood was the neighborhood where you went to buy used furniture and weird candles, not the neighborhood where tech workers bought bungalows for 6 figures over asking. That house is essentially my parents' only real asset. They don't have pensions. Dad has a modest USPS retirement. Mom has basically nothing. Social Security and the equity in that house. That's their entire financial universe. Growing up, they always said the same thing. You two are our retirement plan. Someday everything goes to both of you equally. Both of you, equally. We heard it 100 times. Okay, here's where everything falls apart. Update 1. Thanksgiving, the announcement. Last Thanksgiving, the whole family is at our parents' house in Selwood. The turkey's done. The table's set with Mom's vintage tablecloth that has the cranberry stain from 2011 that she refuses to bleach out because she says it adds character. Dad's already had 2 beers, which for him is practically blackout drunk because the man weighs 155 pounds and has the alcohol tolerance of a golden retriever puppy. After dinner, while we're all sitting around the table in that comatose post-turkey haze, Dad clears his throat in that specific way he does when he's about to say something he's been rehearsing. Mom puts her hand on his arm. That's when I knew something was coming. Your mother and I have been talking, Dad said. We've been meeting with an estate attorney. We're updating our will. Brooke smiled. I smiled. This seemed perfectly normal. They're in their 60s. Responsible adults plan ahead. Good for them. We've decided to leave the house entirely to Tessa. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I have ever heard in my life. Dad kept going because he had clearly rehearsed this and was not going to stop now, regardless of the emotional temperature in the room. Brooke, honey, you and James are in a wonderful position. You're secure. You're taken care of. Tessa is the one who needs the safety net. She's the one who could really use the security. We want to make sure she's protected. Mom jumped in. This isn't about loving one of you more. We love you both exactly the same. This is about need. This is practical. I sat there with a forkful of sweet potato casserole halfway to my mouth, completely frozen. I didn't know about this ahead of time. They had not discussed this with me. They had not warned me. They just dropped it on the dinner table between the gravy boat and the dinner rolls like it was a normal piece of family business. Brooke didn't say anything for about 10 seconds. Then she set her napkin down on the table very carefully, very precisely the way you set something down, when what you really want to do is throw it. Her eyes were filling up, and her jaw was doing that thing it does when she's trying not to cry. This tight little trembling that I've seen 1,000 times since we were kids. Then she said it. So I'm being punished for who I married. Mom started to say something. Dad opened his mouth. No, Brooke said. Let me finish. I grew up in that house too. My height marks are on the wall in the hallway. My handprint is in the cement in the backyard from when Dad repoured the patio. I had my first kiss on that front porch. I hid in the closet in that back bedroom when I was 13, and Grandma died because I didn't want anyone to see me cry. That house is not a financial asset to me. It's my childhood, it's us, it's everything. And you're standing here telling me I don't matter because my husband makes money. She was crying by the end of it. Full, honest, devastated crying. Not performative, not manipulative. I know my sister. That was real grief. And here's the thing that has been eating me alive for 7 weeks now. She has a point. She didn't ask to be cut out. She didn't marry James because he was rich. She married him because they met at a friend's wedding and he made her laugh until she snorted, and he sent her flowers every Tuesday because their first date was on a Tuesday, and he once drove 4 hours round trip to pick up a specific kind of dog food that Biscuit needed when the local store was out. She married someone she loved. He happens to be wealthy. That is not a moral failing. That is not a reason to be cut out of your childhood home. But here's the other thing. The thing I can't say out loud because it makes me sound horrible. I need that house. I mean, I really genuinely, in a way that affects my daily survival, need it. I make $52,000 a year helping families in crisis navigate systems that are designed to be impossible to navigate, and I cannot afford to fix the heater in my car. The house in Selwood is worth $610,000. If it goes to me, I could sell it and pay off my student loans, put a down payment on a small place of my own, and for the first time in my adult life, not feel like I'm one bad month away from financial disaster. If the house goes 50-50 and we sell it, Brooke gets $305,000 she does not need. I get $305,000 that would change my entire life. But $305,000 is not between transformative and merely helpful. And Brooke's $305,000 would go into what a renovation on her Lake Oswego house, a third trip to Europe this year, another matching monogrammed dog bed. I know how that sounds. I can hear it. I sound jealous and bitter and small. And maybe I am those things. But I'm also sitting in a studio apartment in January with a broken heater making $52,000 a year, and my sister just got back from 3 weeks in Italy, Tuscany, the Amalfi Coast, Rome, the whole circuit. And she posted about it every single day. Every single day. Wine at sunset over terracotta rooftops. Her and James clinking glasses on a balcony in Positano. Biscuit and waffles with their pet sitter captioned "Missing my babies" from across the ocean. Meanwhile, I was working mandatory overtime at the county office because 2 other social workers quit, and we were short-staffed through the holidays, eating microwaved soup at my desk and driving home in a car that felt like a refrigerator. I'm not saying her life isn't valid. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve what she has. I'm saying there's a gap between us that is so vast it has its own weather system, and pretending it doesn't exist is dishonest. Update 2. The fallout weeks 1 to 3. Brooke left Thanksgiving dinner early. She and James were gone within 30 minutes of the announcement. She hugged Mom on the way out, tight and long, but she didn't look at Dad. She didn't look at me. The next morning, she blocked me on Instagram. That was how I found out the extent of her anger. Not a phone call, not a text, not even an argument, just a clean digital severance. I went to check her stories out of habit and saw user not found. I stared at that screen for a long time. 3 days after Thanksgiving, James texted me. Just one message. "This is between your parents and Brooke. Stay out of it." I wanted to scream. I wanted to call him and scream until my throat was raw. Stay out of it. I didn't start this. I didn't make this decision. I didn't ask my parents to do this. I found out at the same moment Brooke did, sitting at the same table eating the same turkey, equally blindsided. But somehow I'm the one being told to stay out of it, as if I'm the orchestrator of this whole thing, and not just another person it happened to. But I didn't scream. I didn't call. I didn't text back. Because what would I say? James isn't wrong. This is technically between my parents and Brooke. But it's also between me and Brooke, and between me and my parents, and between all of us and the family we used to be before a piece of real estate blew it apart. Dad called me the Sunday after Thanksgiving. He sounded tired. He sounded old in a way I hadn't noticed before. When did my dad start sounding old? Your mom and I made this decision to protect you, he said. Brooke will be fine. She has James. I said, but what if she doesn't? What if they get divorced? What if something happens? He went quiet. A long, heavy quiet. The kind of quiet that tells you a person hadn't considered what you just said and is now considering it very hard. That's not going to happen, he finally said. But his voice had that thin quality it gets when he's saying something he needs to believe rather than something he actually believes. You don't know that, Dad. Nobody gets married planning to get divorced. More quiet. Then, we made our decision, Tess. We think it's the right one. I don't know if it's the right one. That's the thing. I have gone back and forth on this so many times I've given myself actual headaches. Not metaphorical headaches, real throbbing, behind-the-eyes headaches that I treat with generic ibuprofen because I can't afford the name brand and I have a $3,000 deductible on my health insurance. So going to the doctor about feels like a luxury. Update 3 weeks 4 to 5, everyone has an opinion. The thing about a family conflict is that it doesn't stay in the family. It leaks. It seeps into every conversation, every interaction, every relationship adjacent to the original explosion. My coworker Maria found out because I was having a particularly rough Tuesday and she asked me why I've been quiet all morning and I just started talking. I told her everything. The house, the will, the blocking on Instagram, the silence. Maria is 54 years old. She's been a social worker for 22 years. She has seen every possible configuration of family dysfunction that exists. She is not a sentimental person. She looked at me over the partition between our desks and said, "Take the house. Brooke drives a Mercedes. She'll survive." And I wanted to agree with her. God, I wanted to agree with her so badly. I wanted someone to just give me permission to take this thing I desperately need without feeling like a monster about it. But then I talked to my friend Jake. Jake is a bartender at a place on Belmont. He has this irritating habit of being right about things he has no business being right about. Your parents are pitting you against each other. He said, pulling a pint of IPA and sliding it across the bar to a guy in a flannel who did not seem to be listening to our conversation, but was definitely listening to our conversation. You should both be mad at them, not at each other. I said they were trying to help me. Were they? Or were they trying to feel good about helping you? Because there's a difference, Tessa. They could have talked to both of you beforehand. They could have worked something out together. Instead, they dropped a bomb at Thanksgiving dinner and left you and Brooke to deal with the shrapnel. That's not parenting. That's conflict avoidance disguised as generosity. I hate Jake sometimes. I hate him because he says things that rearrange the furniture in my brain, and then I have to sit with a completely different layout and figure out where everything goes now. Because he might be right. Mom and Dad didn't discuss this with either of us in advance. They didn't warn us. They didn't ask Brooke how she felt or ask me if I was comfortable with the arrangement. They made a unilateral decision about an emotionally loaded asset and announced it at a holiday dinner in front of turkey and sweet potatoes as if that setting would somehow soften the blow. As if Brooke would just nod and say, "That makes sense?" Pass the cranberry sauce. They should have known better. They know their daughters. They know Brooke. They know that house isn't just square footage and property value to her. They know what it means. But here's where Jake's analysis falls apart, or at least where it stops being useful to me personally. Even if my parents handled this badly, the underlying logic isn't wrong. I am the one who needs help. Brooke is the one who doesn't. Those are facts. They're uncomfortable, unflattering, ego-bruising facts, but they're facts. So do I punish myself for my parents' poor delivery of a fundamentally sound decision? Update 4 weeks, 6 to 7. The Sunday calls and the silence. Mom calls me every Sunday. Every single Sunday since Thanksgiving, the phone rings at 2:15 p.m. Right after she gets back from the church service she started attending 3 weeks ago, which tells you something about how she's handling this because Karen Driscoll has not been to church voluntarily since 1997. Every Sunday, the call goes the same way. She asks about my week. I tell her about work, She asks if I've eaten. I lie and say yes, even though by 2:15 on a Sunday I've usually had coffee and half a bagel. And then sometime around the 7-minute mark, her voice cracks. I just wanted to help you, baby. Now I'm losing Brooke. She says some version of this every single time. And every single time I sit on the edge of my bed in my studio apartment, which is also my couch, which is also my dining room, which is also my office, and I hold the phone and I listen to my mother cry, and I don't know what to say. Because what do you say? It's okay, Mom. It's not okay. Brooke will come around. I don't know if she will. You did the right thing. I don't know that either. What I usually say is, I know, Mom. I know. That's not comfort. That's placeholder language. That's the verbal equivalent of putting a coaster on a table. It serves a function, but it doesn't fix anything. Dad has stopped talking about it entirely. According to Mom, he goes to the basement after dinner every night and watches football. It doesn't matter if there's a game on. He'll watch replays. He'll watch analysis shows. He'll watch whatever is on as long as it involves a ball and a field and no one asking him about his estate plan. He has retreated into the emotional bomb shelter that men of his generation are so good at constructing. All concrete and denial and the ESPN scroll at the bottom of the screen. I tried calling Brooke twice, once in week 4, once in week 6. Both times it went straight to voicemail. Her voicemail message is still the one she recorded when she was 27. Hey, it's Brooke. Leave me a message and I'll call you back. All bright and chirpy. A voice from a version of our relationship that doesn't exist anymore. I didn't leave a message either time. What would I say? Hey, it's me. I know you're furious. I know you feel betrayed. I understand why. I also can't afford to heat my car or my apartment. And the house that you see as our shared childhood, I see as the only realistic path I have to financial stability in a city that has priced me out of everything except a 500-square-foot box above a vintage clothing store. Can you please call me back so we can talk about this like the two people who used to share a bunk bed and a secret language and a life? She wouldn't call back even if I did say that. I know my sister. The worst part, the part that wakes me up at 3 in the morning is that I don't even disagree with her fundamental argument. She grew up in that house. Her height marks are on the wall. I know exactly which mark she's talking about because mine are right next to them in different colored marker because Dad used red for me and blue for her. She did have her first kiss on that porch. Tyler Brennan. She was 15. She came inside afterwards with her face completely flushed and I asked her what was wrong and she said, nothing. In a way that meant everything. And we stayed up until 2 in the morning talking about it in our bunk beds, whispering so Mom and Dad wouldn't hear. That house isn't lumber and drywall to Brooke any more than it is to me. It's where we became who we are. And our parents are essentially telling her that her emotional claim to it is worth less than my financial need for it. They might be right about the practicalities, but being right about the practicalities doesn't make you right about everything. Update 5 where I am right now. It has been 7 weeks. My sister has not spoken to me. My mother cries every Sunday. My father lives in the basement with ESPN. My brother-in-law thinks I should stay out of something I never asked to be in. My coworker thinks I'd be crazy to refuse. My friend the bartender thinks we're all looking at this wrong. And I sit in my studio apartment, which is cold because the building's heating system is temperamental according to my landlord, who is a 28-year-old tech worker who bought the building as an investment property and has never fixed a single thing in the 18 months I've lived here. And I think I've been thinking about what I would actually do if I told my parents to split it 50-50. I'd get around $305,000 after the sale, minus whatever goes to the realtor and closing costs. Call it $280,000. I could pay off my student loans, put a down payment on a small condo. Maybe. In this market, maybe a 1-bedroom somewhere in outer southeast if the market shifts. I'd still be driving the Subaru. I'd still be making $52,000. I'd be better off than I am now, but I wouldn't be transformed. I'd be incrementally improved. If I get the whole house, I get $610,000 minus costs. Call it $560,000. I could pay off my loans, buy a small house outright, have an actual emergency fund for the first time in my life. I could get the heater fixed in the Subaru. I could stop budgeting in a spreadsheet that I check every single morning with the same anxiety I imagine people check their blood pressure when they know it's too high. The difference between those two scenarios is the difference between surviving and actually living. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I have spent my entire adult life in survival mode. I chose a career that matters, and it pays like it doesn't. I help families every single day who are in worse situations than mine, and I go home to a studio apartment where I can touch both walls if I stand in the middle and stretch out my arms. I am 33 years old, and I have never once felt financially safe. Not once. But Brooke is my sister. She is my person. She was my first best friend and my longest relationship, and the only human on this planet who knows what it sounded like when Dad whistled while he mowed the lawn on Saturday mornings, or how Mom's perfume smelled when she hugged us before school, or how the stairs creaked in that specific pattern when you were trying to sneak down to the kitchen for midnight snacks. She is the keeper of a shared history that no one else has access to, and she is gone. 7 weeks of silence. 7 weeks of blocked accounts and unreturned calls and a voicemail message from 2015 that plays like a recording from another life. I keep coming back to this one thought. This one horrible, circular, inescapable thought. If I take the house, I lose my sister. If I refuse the house, I lose my future. Those shouldn't be the only two options. But right now, sitting in my cold apartment at 11:30 on a Tuesday night wearing 2 sweaters and thick socks because the heat barely works, those feel like the only 2 doors in a hallway. My parents created this situation. They made a decision with good intentions and terrible execution. They tried to protect one daughter, and in doing so told the other daughter she was less important. They were wrong to do it the way they did it. Jake is right about that. But I am still the one who has to decide what to do about it. So, Reddit, am I the for not calling my parents and saying, split it 50-50, make this fair, give Brooke back her half of our childhood? Am I the for quietly, guiltily in the privacy of my own mind wanting to keep it? Am I the for needing something that my sister doesn't need but wants just as much? Am I the for being the poorer sister? The one who chose public service over profit? The one who can't afford a heater? And thinking that maybe, just maybe that means something when it comes to how resources are distributed? Or am I the because none of that matters? Because fairness isn't about need, it's about principle. And the principle is that 2 daughters should inherit equally from parents who always promised they would. I don't know. I genuinely, truly, in the deepest part of my chest, do not know. But I need someone to tell me, because the people in my life are all too close to it to see clearly, and I'm too deep inside it to see anything at all. Edit. I want to be clear. I have not accepted anything yet. My parents are still alive and healthy. Nobody is dying. The will hasn't been finalized. There is still time to change this. I'm asking because I need to figure out what's right before the decision becomes permanent. Edit 2. A lot of people are suggesting a compromise where I inherit the house, but agree to let Brooke keep certain things, or where I get the house, but pay her some portion when I sell. I'm reading every comment. I'm reading all of them. Some of you are making me cry at my desk, and my coworker Maria keeps looking over the partition at me, and I keep telling her I have allergies. In January, she doesn't believe me.